It's the funnest classic cars in GTA Online, and it starts now. You know the deal by now. I know funnest isn't correct English, blah blah blah. We're just gonna jump right in with one of the best looking cars in the entire game, and it's been around for a long time. The Bugatti Stinger GT. This beauty is based on a Ferrari 250 GTO. The most expensive car ever sold at auction in real life was a Ferrari 250 GTO, sold for $48.4 million. I mean, come on. Based on that, and the fact that GTA inflation is way out of control, you'd expect to spend about $100 million on something like this normally. Luckily, it came out a while ago, so it's less than $1 million. And for an ultimate classic car like this, it's really hard to beat. You're not going to have a lot of customization options. Performance-wise, it's pretty good. Looks-wise, it's amazing. But as far as fun factor goes, it's got it. And this is a really great car to drive around. People probably won't know what it is. I don't think I've ever seen anybody driving it, but if you know what it is, you're going to have a good time. And it's just so fun to have something this unique in the game. Moving on to a car that is very popular in the GTA community, and you'll see quite a bit of them, and there's a good reason for that. It's a ton of fun. It's the Bravado Gauntlet Classic Custom. Kind of a mouthful, but it's a Benny's vehicle, so it's kind of expensive. It's just a really good car though, and as far as fun factor goes, it's really kind of off the charts. You can make it look original like that, or you can do it up a little bit like Petty's Superbird and have some fun with it on an oval as well. I've got two of them that you just saw, and I love them both. They're a lot of fun. Performance-wise, it's decent in the muscles class. It's not the best, but it is fairly decent. It's good enough to have fun and free roam, and that's really what this is about. If you don't have one, it's one of those must-have cars in the game. Maybe you like your muscle a little more restomati. This is really probably my favorite muscle car there is, and you may not really even recognize it. It hides on the Arena website. It's really expensive, but it's a lot of fun. I've spent lots of money on these. I have two of them. The one you see here, which is in my Restomod garage, and this one, which is a drift version, and I actually think it's the best drift car in the game. I love it. It slides so easy when you stance it, and it just looks so unique. It's got that rake, so the back of the car sits higher than the front. Performance-wise, I can't test it because it's an arena vehicle, and Rockstar won't let me put those on a stunt track, which is really unfortunate. But it is fun. You can't race it, so the price is a little steep. It's very steep, let's be honest. But for something that's pretty unique and very, very good, I mean, I say this about a lot of cars, but this really is probably my favorite muscle car. It wouldn't be a stock boy video without throwing an off-roader in there, and this is a really neat classic off-road car. It's another Benny's vehicle, and it's pretty expensive, but the customization on this thing is insane. You can do pretty much anything you can imagine, and even though it may not be quite as good off-road as a Squatty or a Camacho, the customization alone makes this car completely worth it, in my opinion. It's an absolutely amazing car. You can see it climbs fairly well here. It does pretty good off-road in just about every situation, and I don't know, I can't talk enough about the looks though. Customization-wise, I don't think you can beat it in GTA Online, and overall, it's just a really solid car to drive around. The Rapid GT Classic used to rule racing in GTA. Additions of some other cars have kind of made it not the best in the sports classic class, but as far as fun factor goes, I think it's without a doubt the most fun car to race in the sports classics class. It has personality. It's not like the Cheetah Classic where it just sticks to the road all the time and you just throw it around corners. This thing requires you to think and work a little bit, and it's just, to me, it's got the perfect handling for a race car. It's so much fun. I take cars to tracks on my own to drive all the time, and this is one that I drive. I put myself in a tough spot by saying the Imperator was my favorite muscle car, because this is at the very least a close second. The Vapid Slam Truck Custom, another Benny's vehicle, and it just looks incredible. I mean, come on, I love this car. You got the big Mamba wheels on it. I love that you have a little nitrous tank there in the middle. I love the sea green color. If you've seen my garage tour video, This is one of the few cars that I call out in that video. I drive it a lot, and it's just a missile. It has no brakes, but acceleration-wise, it's pretty impressive, and it feels exactly how it should. It's a ton of fun. It's got a ton of personality. It goes really fast in a straight line, and when you try to turn it, you're going to have a little bit of trouble. But it's just such a gorgeous car. I love looking at it. I love getting it out in the desert. Like the lighting, everything just looks so cool when you're in the Slam Van Custom. And it's pretty rare. You don't see them a lot. So if you want something that's a ton of fun, that's going to turn some heads in GTA Online, this is a good choice. We have to have a mid-engine car in this video. This is based off of a De Tomaso Pantera. I have mine set up to look more like the GT5 version of the car. I tend to go for an original look with some of these classics, but it actually has some really good customization options too. There is a lot of detail in the interior as well. It looks good and it sounds great. You'll hear it here in a second. I just love the exhaust tone on this car. Just that low, deep V8 rumble. They used to be really popular when they released, and then Rockstar actually lowered the top speed of the car a little bit. It was crazy fast at first, but it's still a lot of fun, and it's fairly unique if you want a classic supercar. Now think hard. What is maybe one of the most successful cars in the history of racing? Mini Coopers are up there, right? They're pretty freaking awesome, and the Issy Classic is no different. It's so much fun. It's got a ton of lift-off oversteer, meaning if you lift off the gas, the back end slides out. It's kind of a tricky car to nail handling-wise, but there are specific Issy Classic races in GTA Online, and my opinion is that those might be the funnest races that you can enter. So having one isn't just all about looks or anything like that. It's also about functionality. You can take part in those races and look serious while you're doing it. It's such a fun little car, and it is a great car to own. Back to Ultimate Classics and talking about racing cars, the Mamba is based off of the Shelby Cobra, and this is another car that I absolutely love. I have multiple because they're so much fun. It's another car that people don't like because it's hard to drive, and if you've watched my other videos, that makes me like it even more. It's not going to be easy to throw around corners like you can see here. It makes you work for it. The back end's going to slide out. It's an absolute monster, and it's hard to handle, and that's exactly how it should be. That's how the Shelby Cobra was. I don't know. As far as an Ultimate Classic goes, I think it's probably a tie between the Shelby, or I'm sorry, it's not the Shelby, between the Mamba and the Stinger GT that we saw at the beginning of the video. Let's keep going with some classic cars. Classic cars, of course, this is a classic video. Classic racing cars is what I meant. This is an Alfa Royale, it's not an Alfa. This is the Lampadi Michele GT, and it looks an awful lot like an old touring car, the Alfa Romeo GTV to be specific. And it's a lot of fun to race. You know, I'm gonna say it because I have to say it once per video. It's not gonna win you many races, but you're gonna have a lot of fun driving it, especially if you just go to a track and tear it up by yourself. It feels like a little racer should. It's awesome. It's based on an old Italian race car. The fun factor is there. The liveries make it look almost identical to the real thing. It's a really cool car. This is the Ocelot Swinger, and you may have seen it on a website trying to decide whether or not it's worth buying. I think it looks great. It's based on a Jaguar XJ13, which I think they only made one of, or just a couple. It never made it to production, so it's kind of a neat, rare car with some history behind it. And it's really, really easy to drive fast. It's surprisingly stable and really fun. It's also unique. You don't see a lot of them. As far as fun goes, this is a great choice. We'll head back and look at another muscle car. This is the Tulip, and it's a great looking four-door muscle car in the game. You can set it up to look a little more original, or you can do this and turn it into an absolute drag monster. It's fun, it does massive wheelies, it's fairly quick in a straight line as far as quarter mile goes, and overall one of the more fun muscle cars you can have in GTA. I'm ready to surprise you. This is the Lampadi Casco, and I actually think this is a great looking car. It looks a lot like an old small sports car. I love that you have that functional hood scoop. You can see the ram pipe sticking up. It sounds great too. It's such a unique sound coming from that little car. It's really a lot of fun, and it's fairly agile. The one thing about it is its brakes are terrible, and it's got a really high top speed. So if you get going pretty quickly, it can be a little hard to control. I probably wouldn't be racing it, but it is a lot of fun. Speaking of top speed, the Impaler is an absolute monster on my speedway. Part of the reason is because, as you can see, the props are pretty limited that GTA gives us to build speedways. So I made it as smooth as I could for a 1.5 mile circuit, but the car on its own has a 135 mile an hour top speed, which in GTA is nuts. And for GTA muscle cars, it's tops of the class. It's a really, really fast car, and the handling is actually a lot of fun. So unless you're on like 20-degree bank corners just bouncing around, it handles pretty well, and it's a good car to just drive around free mode. I think it looks great too. You'll see here kind of the consequences of being a little unstable on these corners, but it is a ton of fun, and I definitely would recommend it. It sounds so good. A lot of people might tell you that this is the best sounding car in the game. That's one of the reasons that it is on the outside the box list, I think. The exhaust makes no sense. This is based on a Mercedes Gullwing SL, the benefactor, what are you called? Sterling GT. And it's a really great car. It's a lot of fun, based on a really ultimate classic, but it's just kind of off, and that's why it doesn't quite get to the top 10. There you go, 15 more cars for you to drool over, and hopefully go out and buy a couple. I love the classic cars in this game. They're so unique, not a lot of people have them, and they're a ton of fun to drive. They've all got a lot of personality. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already and you want to see more Stock Boy content, hit subscribe for me. It helps a lot. I hope to see you again in the next one.
We going to that swinger party this weekend?
What? Agatha, come on now. If you want to get famous, you are on the wrong YouTube channel.